Hey everybody, it's Miss C. Today we are going to talk about air pollution. We're moving on from water pollution. Similar to water pollution, air pollution is caused by any solid or liquid that we add to the air at a really high amount, so much that there isn't a lot of time for the air to be cleaned by natural processes, like it just being kind of diffused and spread out along a really far area, or for plants to absorb certain particles and collect them and kind of filter the air for us. So I am going to show you this really cool site that I found that we will continue to use as we talk about fossil fuels, which is a non-renewable resource. And it's Climate Kids by NASA, and NASA is the National Aeronautic Space Administration. So today we are going to read this page, which really nicely breaks it down for us. So what causes air pollution? Air pollution is caused by solid and liquid particles and certain gases that are suspended in the air. These particles and gases come from car and truck exhaust, factories, dust, pollen, mold spores, volcanoes, and wildfires. The solid and liquid particles suspended in our air are called aerosols. Okay, so anything that is up in the air that is just kind of hanging out and floating there, that is called an aerosol. We have a picture here of factories with smoke and all sorts of other particles coming out. We have a picture of cars and what's coming out of their tailpipes. Exhaust, that's from the burning of the gasoline. Air pollution happens when solid and liquid particles called aerosols and certain gases end up in our air. These particles and gases can be bad for the planet and for our health, so keeping track of them is important. Where do aerosols come from? Any particle that gets picked up into the air or is formed from chemical reactions in the air can be an aerosol. Many aerosols enter the atmosphere when we burn fossil fuels, such as coal and petroleum and wood. These particles can come from many sources, including car exhaust, factories, and even wildfires. Some of the particles and gases come directly from these sources, but others form through chemical reactions in the air. Aerosols can come from other places too, such as ash from an erupting volcano, dust, pollen, or from plants, and mold spores are examples of aerosols. So some of these things are not man-made, and man-made means that people make them, or people are at least making them go into the air, right? So we might not make fossil fuels, but by burning them in our cars and it coming out the tailpipe, or burning them in our factories and going up into the air, that is considered man-made because we are actually releasing that carbon up into the atmosphere, and we're releasing those aerosols, all those particles. But do we control if a plant releases spores or pollen? No, we don't. So that would not be considered man-made. Do we control if lightning strikes a tree in the forest and it causes a big forest fire, and then there is a lot of smoke and burned wood ash up in the air? Did we cause that? No, so that's not man-made. Man-made would be if we were to have done that. So if we went and we burnt down that forest, that's man-made because we did that. In some places, some cultures do that. It's called slash and burn. Well, they'll go and they'll take down a whole forest by burning it. And so that would be causing pollution and releasing those aerosols and gases into the air. So it's tricky. You have to think about, are people doing it? Are people releasing it? If not, if it was just nature, that's not man-made pollution. So there is a video here that you can watch if you like. It's NASA using their satellites, and they're tracking volcanic ash. So they're able to see the Earth here. And then with their satellites, they're able to show that volcanic ash in the air, and they're able to monitor it and see where it travels. They see if the wind currents are going to take it this way or that way, and they're able to see how far it goes, how dense it is, or how much it spreads out. So that would be a really cool 1-minute video for you to watch if you'd like to. And the link is right up here on Google Classroom. We're going to continue reading. What else causes air pollution? Certain gases in the atmosphere cause air pollution. For example, in cities, a gas called ozone is a major cause of air pollution. Ozone is also a greenhouse gas that can be both good and bad for our environment. It all depends where it is in the Earth's atmosphere. So we have a really nice diagram here, and we have the sun, and its rays are shining in through our atmosphere. And so we have good ozone in our atmosphere, and that protects us from these rays. And it also helps trap some of that heat. But then in our atmosphere, we can have this layer of bad ozone. So let's see how that builds up. Ozone high up in our atmosphere is a good thing. It helps block harmful energy from the sun called radiation. But when ozone is closer to the ground, it can be really bad for our health. Ground level ozone is created when sunlight reacts with certain chemicals that come from sources of burning fossil fuels, such as factories or car exhaust. When particles in the air combine with ozone, they create smog. Smog is a type of air pollution that looks like smoky fog and makes it difficult to see. So we've seen this before. Here is a city without much smog. It has clean air, or cleaner air. You can see pretty far, so we would say the visibility is good, which means we can see far into the distance. Here's that same city, and the picture caption says, smog is a type of air pollution in cities that makes it difficult to see outside. So this is Beijing in China on a clear day after rain, and so the rain has kind of cleared out that smog, and on our smoggy day on the right. So this is a day where like the air is just dense with those aerosols and there's a lot of pollution. People would not be outside during this time really. And if they are, they're probably covering their mouths. So that is a lot of air pollution that's just sitting in the city of Beijing right there. So how does air pollution affect Earth's climate? Aerosols can impact how the sunlight hit Earth. For example, some aerosols reflect sunlight while others absorb sunlight. It depends on the color of the particle. So if it's dark colored, it's going to absorb the heat. If it's light colored, it's going to reflect that heat. So we know this because if we go outside on blacktop, it gets really, really hot. Like, have you ever kind of burnt your feet when you're out on the blacktop? Yeah, it hurts. And it's because it's so dark that it's absorbing that sunlight and it's holding it and it's making it hotter. So dark surfaces like a black t-shirt or a dark particle in the atmosphere, they absorb that heat. So lighter colored surfaces are going to keep it cooler, and they're going to because they reflect the light, they don't absorb it. So like a white t-shirt on a hot day makes you feel cooler, and light colored particles affect the sun's light, and they keep the heat away from the Earth, and they make the global temperature cooler, where dark colored particles would absorb it and make the global temperature warmer. So if we have lots of aerosols that are going to be absorbing that heat, that's how we talk about global warming. That's how we talk about the Earth heating, because those aerosols are catching the Earth's rays, and instead of reflecting them back into space and keeping the Earth nice and cool, they're catching it and they're holding onto that heat and they're heating up the Earth. So air pollution is bad for our health. Breathing in polluted air can be very bad for our health because long-term exposure has been associated with diseases, right? If there are things floating in the air, do we want to breathe those in so that now they're inside our lungs floating around? No. So that can be bad for us, and that's why it's important to monitor air pollution. And NASA does this with their lots of different satellites that they have. Just like they're able to monitor the volcanic ash, they're able to use their satellites to look at cities and see how dense smog is, or to see if particles are moving in certain places. So that's a lot of really cool technology that they're able to use. So now what I would like you to do is go to your exit ticket. You're going to answer the questions. So this one, it says, what is one form of man-made air pollution? We have to think about that. What is man-made? And then you're going to write a short paragraph. So please, at least 3 sentences about any type of air pollution that you have seen or that you know about, and how we can help keep the air clean. And then one question you have about air pollution or you have about natural resources. And I can't wait to see you all later. I'll see you tomorrow, and we will do a review of natural resources. All right, have a great day.